Good morning. I'm Mark Goodman. I'm board chair of Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma, and it's my pleasure to welcome you both live and virtually to our yearly Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma 5K race. I'm fully vaccinated, and therefore I've taken down my mask.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rod Rothaus. I am a cancer survivor over 5 years. I am also vaccinated. I don't have my mask on. Get vaccinated if you have not been.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Sue Suit, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the very different 2021 Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma 5K walk and fun day. We just want to announce the top teams that will receive free registration for the team captains next year. First one is Never Mind the Bollock. Congratulations, Rod. Dan and Debbie's Disease Destroyers, Dan Allo, and Team Luke Strong. So that's Janice Blancock. The top teams with the greatest amount of members were Never Tell Me the Odds with Stephanie Crick as the team captain, Team Nikki with Donna White, and Team Luke Strong with Janice Blancock. So give everybody a round of applause.
Hi, Sarcoma family. We're here at Brady's Run for our virtual walk, and we are here to walk in memory of our sister Lisa, or Aunt Lisa, depending on who you talk to. And she was diagnosed 44 years ago, and we're here to think about her today. And she had some wonderful doctors in Pittsburgh, and she had a great positive attitude, and we had her for over 8 years after she was diagnosed. So we're here to in memory of her, and here's to those who are fighting now. You can do this. Good luck. We have some wonderful doctors in Pittsburgh, and keep up with a positive attitude.
Good morning, everybody. Dr. Kurt Weiss, and thank you all for being here both in person and joining us from wherever you are. Thank you. I was asked earlier this week to say a few words today, and I agreed grudgingly because what am I going to say that you haven't heard a million times before? So I wasn't super excited about it. But about 12 hours ago, I had an experience that made me very excited for the opportunity to talk with you. I've been asked a lot of questions in the past few days and weeks about the MOTR, which is the Musculoskeletal Oncology Tumor Registry and Tissue Bank. We call it the MOTR. And they are easy questions. They should be easy questions. What is this all about? What's it for? Who's benefiting? Sometimes the easiest questions are the most challenging. But something happened to me about 12 hours ago that brought this into great clarity, and I want to share that with you. We have a brand new student in the lab, and her name is Trudy Zoe. She's not here. She's running right now around North Park. but Trudy is a brand new medical student at the University of Pittsburgh, and she is a recent Duke graduate. When she was at Duke, she was doing chondrosarcoma, that's cartilage cancer, research with my colleagues Will and Julia, who work down there at Duke. So she got into Pitt, came to Pitt. Do you have anyone who does sarcoma research? Do you have anyone that does chondrosarcoma research? So she found us, and just yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, Trudy and I were going through the clinical data from the motor to answer some research questions she had. And I thought, this is why we're doing this. I don't have to make Trudy passionate about sarcoma research. She brings that on her own. I don't have to think of a research question for her to ask. She's brilliant. She's going to think of questions that are 100 times smarter than anything I would ask. What I need to do is put this kid in a position where she can take her passion and her brilliance and transform that, have all the tools she needs to take her research forward. That's my job. So you want to do some chondrosarcoma research? Okay. You want some clinical specimens? Here's 30, which is about 30 more than most people have. Here's high throughput genetic sequencing on 11 of those patients. You want to do some cell culture? Here's a bunch of those, and three-dimensional spheroid cultures. Here's a paper we wrote using our cell lines and our spheroid cultures and why we think that's important in chondrosarcoma that were generated from the motor. How about a mountain of clinical data to go with all these patients? So, and today it's Trudy, tomorrow it's going to be someone else. The point is, for us at the Hillman Cancer Center and our partners down the road at AHN and down the street at West Virginia and all across the country, Mass Hayashi in Colorado and the folks in Boston, all these people, I don't have to give them passion. They should already have that. I don't have to think up research questions. They should already have that. What I need to do is put them in a position where they have all the tools they need to do the best possible research for our patients here in Pittsburgh and across the country and across the world. And if that's all I accomplish in my lifetime, then that will be a lifetime well spent. So what you're going to see now is a peek behind the curtain of how that works, how tissue goes from the operating room into the laboratory and how we use that. To bring it back full circle, you know, some of the patients that Trudy and I were looking up yesterday for their clinical records, some of them are no longer with us, and yet they're still teaching us.
Hi, I am Dr. Melissa Burgess, and I'm a medical oncologist and researcher specializing in the care of soft tissue and bone sarcoma patients. I have been training and practicing oncology here at the Hillman Cancer Center since 2012.
I'm Michael Ventresca. I'm 37 years old, and I have had alveolar soft part sarcoma for 8 years. My story starts in 2013. I was working at a restaurant around my hometown, and I had fallen a few times, and a pain began to come about in my left lower back area. After a while, it became a little disabling, so that led me to going to see a doctor who at first thought it may be a blood clot. After 2 weeks, nothing had dissipated, so she directed me to then get an MRI, which led me to Dr. McGow in getting a biopsy. Dr. McGow called me approximately a week later, and he informed me that I had alveolar soft part sarcoma and that we would be scheduling a surgery to extract the tumor. And in the meantime, I should get some scans to make sure that it hadn't metastasized to other vulnerable spots in my body, including the lungs and the brain. And shortly before the tumor extraction in pre-op, he did inform me that it had metastasized, and we would cross that bridge when we came to it. But for now, we were going to work on what was in my pelvis. After the surgery, I met with everybody at Hillman, and they had a plan right away.
Michael was diagnosed with alveolar soft part sarcoma, which is considered one of the ultra-rare sarcomas. There are actually under 100 cases per year in the United States, and it makes up less than 1% of the sarcomas. So we're dealing with a very rare type of cancer. that unfortunately, does have a tendency to metastasize and spread to mostly the lungs or other parts of the body. Michael enrolled on a clinical trial that focused on his immune system. There have been clinical trials, including the one that Michael participated in, that have shown, very promising activity in the tumor cells. We also know that there are many things that we still need to learn. One of the major challenges, obviously, of oncology is understanding why a treatment works and why a treatment doesn't work. Patients like Michael, Michael and so many others, it's really important to have that participation in clinical trials so we can advance the science forward for our patients and find new treatments, especially for something that's so rare that doesn't have a lot of treatments available.
Eventually, we got to the point where it just wasn't having any further positive effects, and in the clinical trial, that means you have to stop that and throw the next noodle at the wall and see if it sticks.
Your femur breaking really stands out in your whole story because that was a big, life-changing moment, pretty much, right?
Yeah. I was supposed to be in a friend of mine's wedding, and so I put off a surgery to put a titanium rod in my leg so it wouldn't break. And I remember Dr. McGall said, "Don't do anything dumb. If it breaks, this is going to be a lot worse." And I said, "Why would I do anything dumb?" So I went to a bachelor party at PNC Park, and after the game, I was leaving. I was crossing General Robinson Way outside of PNC Park. I stepped into the street and I noticed an oncoming vehicle, and I took one step back to get on the curb. My femur, it snapped. I grabbed onto a nearby tree and kind of fell onto the ground gently and slowly and just laid there until they took me to Allegheny General. And they did some trauma scans, and in that moment, they discovered that the cancer had metastasized into my brain in 2 spots, in the brain and on the skull.
When Michael broke his leg, obviously this was a major turning point in his disease, and along with the disease in his brain, but we knew just exactly what to do to help him.
The staff at UPMC Cole helped me get back on my feet and moving and coming down here. Even I was off the treatment for a while, and I remember one of the first times I came and saw you, you were like, "It must still be working because your marks are smaller now." And that got me back in that upward swing. That made me believe that I could get back on my feet.
When Michael had his follow-up scans after his surgery and radiation, that there was something going on with the tumors. They actually were responding to the prior immune therapy treatment. This was actually very exciting, and it's not something we see too often in our cancer patients. So we knew exactly what to do, and we got him right back on that therapy when it was safe to do so. There are many different types of sarcomas, and each one has a unique biology. We find that patients that have alveolar soft part sarcoma, like Michael, that not 2 people are the same, obviously. So one person may respond to a treatment and one person may not. The patients that volunteer to donate their tumor samples and to participate in clinical trials, this is very important. And the more and more patients that do this, we're going to get closer and closer to being able to treat this disease and even cure this disease.
I'm here to give you the board report, tell you basically where your money is being spent. You've been very generous, so here we go. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank everybody who's come to the park, joined us virtually, or donated to the cause. So far, this event has topped $166,000 in funds raised for sarcoma research. Considering what our original goal was, this is an incredible outcome, so thank you. From 2017 to 2019, we shared our funds with Sarcoma Foundation of America. In those years, $193,000 came back to Pittsburgh for research funding. This funding went to Rebecca Waters and Dr. Weiss's lab for $115,000, a clinical trial run by Dr. Missy Burgess, $38,000, and a genetics pilot project run by Dr. Robert Binder for $50,000. All money well spent. Since becoming an independent 501c3, we have funded Dr. Weiss's motor project, just spoke about, for $50,000 last year, and we've pledged another $50,000 this year. This is the basis for all of the researchers to have access to the tumor specimens they need. We bought Dr. Dunsing an ultra-cold freezer last year, which is at 112 degrees below zero Fahrenheit, as opposed to 4 degrees below zero for your home freezer. It will hold up to 16,000 specimens, so as to have the ability to store and then access all of this material. The Hillman Sarcoma Fund received $5,000 from us, and we kept $30,000 in reserve for the 6 wet labs that are associated with PSAR. These are emergency funds for little things that come up, like a broken centrifuge that's not funded under any other research grant. We now have enough money to successfully think about granting money for new research projects. The board has decided that granting smaller grants to more people to get them started on their passion for sarcoma research is the way to go. So we will be sending out announcements requesting grant applications, and then our medical advisory board will go through those grant applications and rank them, and then the board will decide finally on where the money will go. It is hopeful that by the end of this year, we will have probably a half dozen grants out for people to get started or supporting their sarcoma research. We've had a great year supporting the race, a great year with beer tasting as well. We will continue both of those efforts. Be advised, this is an all-volunteer organization, which is fairly unique. There's not a single paid member. It's an incredible group, whether they're breaking down 36 cases of beer to 160 individual packages, or whether they're quickly going from an all-virtual race to this hybrid race. The committee is a wonderful group of people. The board thanks them, and more important, the board thanks all of you for the support that you've given this year and through the year. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we're here with Team Sayonara Sarcoma. We are celebrating my mom, Cheryl Kilroy's 18th year cancer-free. We want to wish everybody a wonderful walk. We're here celebrating virtually, and my mom wants to pass along a message for anyone going through treatment. I've been very blessed, and these guys keep me going all the time. One of the pieces of advice I can give for anybody that's going through treatment is try to surround yourself with as much happiness as you can, and just take one day at a time. There's going to be some setbacks, but just keep plugging forward. You got this. So together, let's cure sarcoma!
When Michael was first diagnosed, we took a piece of his tumor tissue and we took it to the lab and we started studying it. This was really important so that we could learn what's going on inside the tumor. Patients like Michael and others, it's really important that we continue to develop more and more research by having these tumor tissues available. The Musculoskeletal Oncology Tumor Registry here at UPMC, led by Dr. Kurt Weiss, is a very unique resource here. This is not something that every cancer center has available to them. What's been built here by Dr. Weiss and his team is absolutely amazing, so that we have a large amount of tumor tissue to make sure that there's a large enough sample size to really understand these integral parts of tumor biology.
The idea from the tissue bank happened when I was first recruited back to Pitt, and we finally got it. That was in 2010. We finally got it. The thing started in 2012. I learned that each one of these is so rare and so precious, and it really is possible to capture them all and bank them all with a concerted effort. If you're intentional about it, you can get all those biological reagents, and they're priceless. Every one of them is so unique and they're so rare. You really need those numbers. We can't afford to lose any. My interest is in how and why sarcoma cells spread from where they're at to a different part of the body, usually the lungs. That's my scientific interest. But different people have different scientific interests. They can't study their interest without raw materials, and the tissue that we get from sarcoma patients is the raw materials. One of the guiding principles of sarcoma surgery is margins. 99.999% is an unacceptable answer. It's got to be 100%. In a spot where we are absolutely certain that the margin is negative, I or one of my partners will cut into the tumor, get into the sarcoma, and scoop some of it out, and it gets put into a 50 milliliter conical tube of cell culture media that usually Tanya is standing there holding, and tumor goes in and it goes off to the lab, like right that second. We have had some opportunities to get primary tumor cells and metastatic tumor cells from the same patient. There aren't that many of them, but when they do happen, they're extraordinarily important from a scientific standpoint, because I can compare the primary tumor to the metastasized spread tumor that's gone someplace else, usually the lungs with sarcoma, and see what is different. I wanted to bring up a couple more things. A lot of the patients who've donated their tissues to the tumor registry and tissue bank, they're no longer with us. And so those particular tissues are precious for two reasons. Number one, all of the sarcomas we collect are precious because they're so rare. But a lot of times, that flask of cells or that chunk of tumor, that's all we got left to that person. All the patients know that. They're smart. They know that the research we're doing in the lab and all our collaborators, it's probably not going to help them. But they still donate to the tumor registry and tissue bank because maybe it'll help the next guy, the next lady, the next father, mother, child. And that's why they do it. All the mistakes we've made, all the hard work we've had to do up to this point wasn't for nothing, because now we've got it to a point where we're using it for not just our research, but we can export it to our colleagues. And we're starting to see the fruits of that, which is going to mean that we get more specimens and more papers and more research and more people that want to collaborate, and it's just going to build on itself. So we're at that slope of the curve, and it's an exciting place to be. The funds that we've gotten from Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma up to this point have done everything from soup to nuts, and that's no exaggeration. Everything from start to finish, from collecting the tumor in the operating room to getting it to the lab, to processing it, to storing it. None of that's free, and all of that is looked after by Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma. I think the biggest contribution, though, is having personnel that are dedicated to that. And what that means is, back when we started this thing, when Dr. Goodman and I were trying to do this on our own, we were doing our best, but when we invested in a person, that being Tanya, when we finally had a person that was going to own that job and make sure everyone was consented and make sure everyone was signed up and being boots on the ground in the operating room, taking the sample to the lab and to our collaborators and making sure everything got where it had to go, that was the biggest change. Personnel, the human element, is much more expensive and more precious than any of the materials we use for the science.
Hello, I'm Adam Frederick, a 14-year Ewing sarcoma survivor, and I've also been a member of Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma for a number of years. I've been excited to be part of this group because we've been able to raise thousands of dollars to help support our researchers and doctors and a number of patients that have been impacted by sarcoma. We just want to ask you to make a donation to the organization, and there's a number of ways that you can do that. One easy way to do that is by going to our website, pittsburghcuresarcoma.org, and there's a link for donations that you can make a secure donation by going through that link. Another way is that you can mail a check. Our P.O. Box address is 194, Gibsonia, Pennsylvania 15044, and you can make that check payable to Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma. And a final way that you can make donations would be making a donation with appreciated investments and securities like stocks or mutual funds. To gather information on how you can make those donations, you can email the email address listed below. Often these donations can be tax deductible and a great way to help support a fantastic cause. Thank you, and we really appreciate all the support that people have given us and the future support that you will continue to give us. So thank you very much, and I'm going to turn this over to our next Skype video.
Hi, we are Team Dots, walking in our 8th year for Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma. Hello from South Park.
We are walking in memory of our friend, brother, uncle, dad, son, and guardian angel, David Dots. We miss you, DT.
We are also walking for our aunt, sister, daughter, friend, Beth Burgess killed. We are so grateful for her successful sarcoma treatment.
Finally, we are walking to find the cure. Thank you, friends and family, for your support.
So when we get some of the tumor samples from the clinic, so Tanya Heim, our research coordinator, will bring them over. We'll actually take them into our tissue culture room. We'll dissociate them, which means take the tumor apart and get it down into individual cells. And so those cells, we make a suspension of those, and we can actually plate them both 2D on plastic, but we can also grow them in 3D, which is really exciting because when tumor cells are growing in your body, they're almost like an organ themselves. They have different cell types supporting them, and they also even cause sometimes blood vessels to reroute to them. So we can actually grow these in 3D, which more accurately represents how they grow in your body. Anytime you take a cell out of the human body, it is going to change a little bit. And we do see that, but by growing them in 3D, we can try to minimize those changes. And we've actually published results in our group, specifically looking at chondrosarcoma. So we compared it to growing 2D, like everybody's been doing for decades in science, and then also in these 3D spheroids. And we found that the ones grown in the 3D spheroids mimic exactly the expression profiles that we found in the original primary tumors, which is a really exciting finding. To be honest, I don't think there are very many sarcoma tumor banks in the country. I think we might have one of the largest here at UPMC, University of Pittsburgh. And right now we have over 45 different subtypes in our bank, which is absolutely incredible. Working in an environment where you study rare tumor types, it's incredibly hard to get cell lines and models to study your disease. So getting samples from patients, it's incredibly valuable because we can bring those back to the lab, we can establish them, we can make cell lines, we can make new tools to do different types of screening, figure out new therapeutic targets. And there's a couple things you want to look for when you're growing primary cell lines. So you want to make sure you don't have any contamination. So when we get the cells, the tumor sample, we actually treat them with various antibiotics and different washes to clean them so that if they picked up any bacteria on the transport or from coming out of the surgery, we can, hopefully eliminate that. Another thing is the outgrowth of cells that are not tumor cells. And so this is where it's really important to do something that we call immunohistochemistry. We use special stains to look at the cell types that we're growing, and we actually work with some board certified pathologists at Shadyside Hospital, and they help us determine if the cells that we're growing are still like the original tumor type. So that's incredibly important to validate that before you move forward with all of your different assays. So individuals that would be interested in working with us and collaborating with us on this tumor tissue bank would be any kind of sarcoma researchers across the country or across the world. Dr. Weiss and I are always looking for new collaborators, and we're always excited to share these tumors because the patients gave these samples hoping that they would be able to help someone else in the future. And so we don't want to silo things just here at University of Pittsburgh. We want to work with everyone. When you work with such a rare tumor type, it's very important to reach out to others and try to work together to combine your resources.
Hi, I'm Gabby, captain of Gabby's crew. I will be 2 years cancer-free this August. I've been involved with PCS for 2 years. I want to thank everyone involved for helping me get through this. I want to remind everyone to continue doing what you love, no matter what. I love to do gymnastics, and sarcoma won't stop.
I've restarted my treatments at Hillman. We're about 2019 now. I'm back on my feet. I'm walking again. We haven't had anything come back in my brain, so that has all been good. No side effects or anything like that. As far as my scans, my recent scans have shown everything is stable. I'm feeling great. I began working again for the first time in 7 years as 2019 became 2020. That led to me getting an apartment for the first time since I was 28, and I'm 37 now. And I have amazing friends in my life, amazing family, amazing staff here at Hillman that make it easy to come back and fight this. And what I am now is almost like I've evolved as a person, and this could have been a terrible situation. This could have been horrible for me. And because of the care I've received here and all along the way, from day one to now, 8 years later, I've never felt like my back was against the wall or that I was alone. And like I've said before, I come here, I don't feel like I'm fighting on my own. I feel like there's an army here that's ready for me to fight. I don't feel like I'm being talked down to. Dr. Burgess talks with me. She educates me, she listens to me. Everybody here does.
I hope that we can bring similar stories to many of our patients, and I hope that we can continue furthering our research to do that by collecting tumor samples and by enrolling patients on clinical trials. It really brings me a lot of joy to hear how well Michael's doing now, and I mean, really, that's the reason why I went into this and why I get up and come to work every day. I also feel so honored that I am able to participate and to be a member of Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma. Over the last 10 plus years, this organization has done so many things for our research, funding, helping patients, building a community. There are so many different reasons that I'm just so happy to be a part of Pittsburgh Cure Sarcoma. I can't thank everybody enough for volunteering to participate in this organization, the 5K, and all of the other fundraising events. Every single person who is a part of this team is just absolutely amazing, and it really is a joy to work with them, honestly.
Thank you for joining us. And of course, next year we hope to celebrate our 10th anniversary with you all here with a full non-virtual event. We hope you enjoyed what you saw today.
I'd just like to say this basically the same that Rod did. We hope you've enjoyed the videos. Watching the story hopefully brings to light all that goes into the research that you are funding. So please keep us in mind, and it will be our third attempt to do the in-person 10th anniversary. So please watch your emails as we get ready to start the race next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
you.